But I do have my lawyer here, one of my favorite lawyers. Every Thursday, our legal expert, Candace Kelley, joins us to look at an interesting case that may not be dominating the front pages, but they're all interesting, compelling, and we all should be keeping an eye on. Well, today, we start with the Supreme Court, where two United States senators, Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse and Republican John Kennedy, are requesting the travel records of the Supreme Court justices as part of an ethics investigation. And joining us now is our friend and legal expert. And yes, I do have her on retainer. She is Candace Kelley. She's got graphics. She's got a budget. She is here for her weekly dose of open and shut. Good morning, Candace.
Good morning, Mike. How's it going?
I'm going well. I might have to talk to you about what Brittany did early in the show, but that's another thing. Let's get into this right now with open and shut. So these two senators that we're talking about, they sent a letter to the Attorney General Merrick Garland. What exactly did the letter say?
The letter painted a picture of, listen, we need to find out what's going on with our Supreme Court justices. We want to know specifically for 10 years, the last 10 years of all the justices, where they traveled, what was the cost, where did they go on this trip, who was with them. So they're really questioning these justices in their private spaces, because as it stands now, while federal judges and other parts of the executive branch do follow a judicial code of conduct, guess what? The Supreme Court does not have a judicial code of conduct. Yes, they have to report financial filings and things of that nature. But in terms of these subsidized trips, it is a big deal because these trips, could be worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And why are they making them, especially for political organizations? So all of those details, they want it to be more transparent. That's what these two senators are asking for.
That is kind of funny. Who judges the judges, the top judges,
Exactly.
the judges of all judges right there? That's pretty funny. So this letter was also given to the director of the U.S. Marshal Service? Well, why is that, Candace?
The U.S. Marshals, they're required to travel and protect the judges wherever they go. So what they're doing is they're looking at the U.S. Marshals. They want to know the cost of cost of U.S. Marshals and what they're doing on these trips. Because sometimes the U.S. Marshals are used, sometimes they aren't. They want to know the reasons of that. Is something being done in secret and private that they shouldn't know about? So it sounds like to me that they are looking at the records and they're going to compare this to maybe cases that have come before the Supreme Court. Look at the people and then look at the people and see whether or not they are part of any cases and probably make some determination, because judges are supposed to recuse themselves when they have a conflict of interest. But as you said, nobody is judging the judges at this time. So these senators are, opening the door for this to happen.
Yeah, and they're going back in the past as well, because the late Justice Anthony Scalia has also come up with these discussions about transparency, right? What's that about?
He certainly has. He has. And the reason is because at the time of the death of the late Justice Scalia, he was at a West Texas ranch. This ranch was owned by a gentleman who actually had a case that came before the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court refused to listen to. So at that point, nobody knew that this was going on. And at that point, too, he actually ditched the marshals when he made that part of the trip to go to visit this ranch. So all of it's kind of questionable, but really a good example as to why scrutiny needs to be placed on these judges. They decide the law of the land. So we need to know who they're affiliated with, who they're speaking to. Is there any political connection? Is anybody persuading them by giving them free trips? Hopefully, we will see these in the near future.
All right, Candace, I'm going to rest my case and I'm going to turn it over to both of who's going to present hers now, okay?
All right.
Sit down. Rest my case. Both of.
Well, all right. From the Supreme Court, Candace, to singer Supreme, Mariah Carey recently responded to her brother's defamation lawsuit. Morgan Carey upset over what Mariah said in her New York Times best-selling memoir titled The Meaning of Mariah Carey. Now, Mariah Carey says she's telling the truth. I actually read most of the book just because I like to read different books at the same time, and I thought it'd be interesting, part of a book club. But I know a lot of folks out there have not read the book. Can you bring us up to speed about what the book actually said, a little details about Mariah's brother?
Yeah, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, that book really meant for her brother. a lawsuit, a defamation lawsuit, because in the book, Mariah Carey points out that her brother was violent, tried to extort money from her, and that at one point there was an altercation between her father and her brother that brought 12 cops to the scene. Her brother is saying, none of this is true. I was a loving son to my mother. We had a great relationship. And as a result of what you said, Mariah, I've actually lost contracts. I've actually lost money. And when it comes to defamation, that's part of the argument that you have to make. You have to say, not only was I defamed, but there was some type of damage that was done to me. There, some award that is due to me. And at this point, he's probably asking for the part of the contract, as well as infliction of emotional distress. I mean, Mariah, on the other hand, is saying, listen, this is the truth. I'm really just trying to be inspirational here.
Right. I think she was trying to show people how you can come through something like a troubled childhood and rise out of that into triumph. That's what she's been saying about it. How are Mariah's attorneys responding to the lawsuit? And I do want to point out that he also mentioned something to the effect of it was a one-sided. The violence was actually on him, saying that his, I believe, his stepfather or father, that he was the one who was the victim, and so feels like he really didn't get a fair shake in this when the story was told. Talk a little bit about how her attorneys are responding.
And you're correct. Her brother Morgan is saying, listen, this is a one-sided story. I really want my day in court. Literally, I want to be heard. And this is what he's saying. Mariah's attorneys, on the other hand, are saying, you know what? This is actually newsworthy as a public figure that she is. The public has a right to know this. This is actually the truth, which is the #1 defense to defamation. If you are not lying about someone, you're just telling the truth, or then you're just telling the truth. So there's nothing that you can get me for if you are violent. So in that regard, her attorneys are saying this is the truth. She's a public figure. She is sharing something that is newsworthy, and she actually wants to be inspirational. She doesn't want to say or defame her brother. That wasn't her intent. But of course, in the court of law, while intent is important, it is how things play out at the end of the day. Did he get defamed? Did people think lower of him, and was his reputation lowered? And that translates into money. And so this is what's going on here. I also want to point out that her sister also sued her for intentional infliction of emotional distress. So she's got a lot going on in terms of what's come out of this book. But as you said, too, it's also a good book. I read it, too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of celebrities will be looking at this and also asking their legal team, hey, when we do mention people in our books, what exactly do we need to be careful of? Because like you mentioned, you've got the sister, you've got the brother. That's a lot to take on after really putting yourself out there. So, Candace,
it is.
Yeah, I appreciate you breaking it down for us.
That's why I changed the names in my book, to protect the guilty. Not to protect the innocent. To protect the guilty. No, they weren't innocent. Not in my book. They were guilty. But I still changed their names because I didn't want to get sued.
Because you didn't want to get sued.
And that's really the big takeaway here, Bota and Mike, is that when you post something, write something, say something, put it in an email, you can be sued for defamation. It just has to be shown to two other people in order for it to be qualified as something that you shared with the public. It doesn't have to be on the news or in the newspaper. You can get sued for an email that goes out to 2 people. And so that's the takeaway here. You got to be careful what you say and write. And really, if you want to change some names, that's probably the better route.
And you want to hire a good lawyer.
I'm about to
you want to hire
deleting these emails right now.
All right, folks, take your notes when you listen to Candace Kelley, because she's always giving us the gold stuff. Thank you so much, Candace, for being with us once again on Start Your Day.